It feels like everything is upside down in Jackson and in Mississippi.
It feels that way because that's the truth. And at a time where the state is littered with questions of integrity, where there's incompetence there, they charge communities like Jackson, who have been devoid of resources, of being the ones that are incompetent.
Then starting tonight and going forward on this show, we want to introduce you to some of the states of our disunion. States where Americans are struggling to exercise their right to vote, to make their way out of poverty, and to live free of government control of their wombs. But tonight we want to start with a state that unfortunately is still stuck in its white supremacist past, Mississippi, where a white supermajority in the heavily gerrymandered state house voted to create an entirely separate court system and expanded police force within the city of Jackson, the blackest city in America, that would be appointed completely by white state officials. That means that the voters of Jackson, which is 80% black, do not get to elect the judges or prosecutors in this separate district, unlike what happens in every other part of the state. White officials currently hold all the statewide positions that would do the appointing, and no black official has ever held any of these positions. In fact, the last time a black Mississippian held statewide office was during Reconstruction. And the state, despite being 1/3 African American, is gerrymandered to have exactly one black congressman, Representative and January 6th Committee Chairman Benny Thompson. Meanwhile, the Republican who introduced this draconian bill says it's because of the high crime rates and backlog of court cases in the county that contains Jackson, which, did I mention, is the state capital. Jackson's mayor has called the plan colonialist and racist and said it reminds him of apartheid. And joining me now is the mayor of Jackson. How it can be possible that the capital of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, is, I think, to your point, going to be governed under apartheid style.
Well, I think that to speak to it honestly, I'm reflecting on the words of Coach Dennis Green, who once said that they are who we thought they were. As we've been calling out these clearly racist policies, that has been done much to the chagrin of state leadership, saying that we're giving Mississippi a black eye. And to be clear, it is not our words that give Mississippi a black eye. It is the actions that they're taking, actions that will not allow or disenfranchise voters in Jackson, Mississippi. This particular law is fraught with constitutional violations, equal protection. It is seeking to create a district which is the most densely white populated area in the city of Jackson. In addition to a police force or a militarized force that does not have direct accountability to the residents. Within the district that already exists, there have been numerous claims of issues of police misconduct that are not being challenged, that are not being followed up on. And so there's a multitude of concerns here.
It sounds like 1980 era Pretoria. How could it be that more than 100 years after the Civil War, Mississippi still is governed this way when it has the highest black population in the entire country, percentage-wise?
Well, I thank you for recounting that history, Joy, because along with that history was a narrative that said that it was in the slave or it was in black people's interest not to be burdened with that heavy weight of having to select electoral leadership.
There's still a water crisis in Jackson. Federal funds have been pledged. It appears now that the Mississippi white legislators are trying to take over those funds and take them out of your hands and other elected local Jackson officials' hands. This, as Brett Favre is threatening to sue the people who pointed out that he was in possession of funds to build his daughter a volleyball complex that belonged to the impoverished people in the state of Mississippi. He was essentially in a mode of taking from the poor, and now he's suing for his reputation back. It feels like everything is upside down in Jackson and in Mississippi.
It feels that way because that's the truth. And at a time where the state is littered with questions of integrity, where there's incompetence there, they charge communities like Jackson, who have been devoid of resources, of being the ones that are incompetent. There has been a willful indifference or a intentional neglect around the issues that Jackson needs. Yeah. And this is part and parcel of the larger effort.
And my guess is, I'll bet you Tate Reeves and them are busy trying to pass laws, trying to outlaw history, because you wouldn't want people to learn how we got here. Jackson, Mississippi Mayor, thank you very much.
Jackson has so much potential.
Reeves says he doesn't think 1020 will solve all the problems, but he thinks it can help, and praises the work of the Capitol Police, noting Friday that the state is boosting funding to support 150 Capitol Police officers.
And I want what's best for Jackson. But for us to continue to see young kids getting killed in the streets, for us to continue to see property crimes that are happening here that are causing businesses to leave, we've got to make sure that we have law and order.
Reeves recognizes that it's a bill under scrutiny, but says he thinks it can be a step closer to what he calls a better Jackson. That's far from the truth if you ask opponents like the ACLU of Mississippi.
If the governor was really concerned about public safety in Jackson, that we would be investing in mental health programs, we would be investing in anti-poverty programs. This bill does not do those things, and instead it takes away the power of Jackson citizens and replaces that power with the authority of white officials who do not live in Jackson and do not have the same investment that people in the community have about what this means for the city and the state.